So almost a year ago now, damn, time does pass. Seems like only yesterday I developed a discuss for all of you. Anyway, about a year ago I made a video on the Coffin of Andy and Leyley, a game that was somewhat controversial due to the contents within it, and had a whole slew of drama revolving around it and the community. Keep in mind this is when I used to put Minecraft footage in the background, as a form of jingling keys to make the small amount of brain cells left rattling in your head somewhat attentive. Those were the good old days, complete blatant slop that only took me a few hours to edit. Now I deal with this. But in that video I basically talked about the controversy surrounding the second chapter's release of The Coffin of Andrew and Leyley, a game that released in March 2023 with its first episode, and then once again in October of 2023 with its second episode, after which it had exploded on the internet seemingly overnight, with everyone and their dementia-ridden grandma talking about this game, particularly one scene in general which made every reaction YouTuber lose their shit.
Oh! In their mom's bed too. Oh Jesus.
But due to the explosion on the internet, it developed a cult following overnight, and on the other side of the coin had a number of people condemning it, especially people on Twitter, due to one of the themes advertised a handful of times throughout the game, and one scene in particular which is an optional route, which once again to emphasize is optional. People seem to overlook all the other topics within the game but drew their line at this, and the fact the characters are deranged psychopaths and terrible people. It was essentially like overlooking the local glory hole, but getting annoyed at the people in the corner fisting without contraception, but people really did lose it and judged it for glorifying this one topic, and once again forgot about all the other topics and the general concept of the game. But no, fisting without contraception? Bad dog. But from this you also had the creator come under fire as well, and had some terrible things happen to them which led to them stepping away from the internet for a while. It was to the point where this game was labelled the most controversial game of 2023, and gave birth to one of the most unique in quotations, fan bases who are completely obsessed with it and running around like little crackheads waiting for their next dose, which is episode 3. But today I wanted to revisit the topic as some things have changed, and there were some things I did not include in that previous video and got wrong. So I'm sticking my adult, hairy, big toe back into the community. But if you made the unfortunate decision to click on this video, you can still turn back, buddy. But if you also made the unfortunate decision of spawning in the sister-kissing, mother-licking and uncle-sniffing state of Alabama, you're going to enjoy this video. Or at least people think you should, as people outside the community label this game the incest game.
I just want to beat my meat. I just want to beat my meat. Let me beat my meat. Let me beat my meat.
But first, what is the Coffin of Andy and Leyley? Well, for those of you who haven't had internet access or visited such sites as X or Rule34, because it is plastered to those websites like Conjoined Twins. The Coffin of Andrew and Leyley is a horror visual novel of sorts, where the basic concept of the game centers around the characters Andrew, who is 22, and Leyley, who is 20, as they've been confined to their house due to a supposed forced quarantine, and the virus was in the water, meaning they may have been contaminated with the virus. So they were confined to their home. The game being suitably called The Coffin of Andrew and Leyley, and if your brain is as thick as a concrete brick, due to the fact they were locked in their own room and barely given any rations to survive by the people monitoring their quarantine, and at the start of the game are currently starving to death, this is probably why the game is called The Coffin of Andrew and Leyley. You dumbass. Both Leyley and Andrew aren't the most sane of people. In fact, the game tries to tell you these two are psychopaths and are terrible people. Andrew is aggressive at times, and Leyley has already committed unspeakable crimes like murdering a young child that was interested in her brother, which, you know, getting rid of another Roblox user of the world isn't entirely a bad thing. But the two, while starving to death, notice some ominous music coming from their neighbour. They decide to go investigate and see that their neighbour is performing a satanic ritual, as you do on a Friday night. The two decide to go back to their room and then later return to see how things are going, and observe their neighbour asking the demon to help them escape the room and the quarantine effect, which the demon complies with by promptly mauling them to death like a vicious pit bull in a children's playground, and Andrew and Leyley just kind of watch like the cooks they are. Then after the demon was finished and they were in their current state of starving to death, they decide to ransack the place looking for food, but find nothing and are still starving. So with a gourmet meal standing right in front of them, the leftovers from the pit bull from hell, they decide to resort to cannibalism. They chop up the body and cook it, and then lament over the fact they have just eaten a fully grown adult. Let's hope they didn't eat the brain, or the Kuru virus will be finding them. But after which they decide to clean their room just in case the warden's coming in and realise they've just eaten a person.
Quit having fun!
But they have to quickly hide because coincidentally the wardens are about to come in. Ashley gets discovered and Andrew beheads the guy like it's an old live leak video, after which they now have freedom, so they adventure outside and discover that their blood types were listed on their doors. Turns out the virus was fake and they were just using them for their blood and organs, and their family had essentially sold them both. I think that was a good deal, to be honest. Getting rid of 2 children that are like Jeffrey Dahmer's and getting paid to do so, GG, that is a good deal. But their value also corresponded to their blood type. If you were ABC, you were less useful than the people that were -O, meaning people who had -O blood type had more resources. Just a little side note, I myself do not even know my blood type, so if I stereotypically get stabbed in the UK ghetto, I'm fucked. But that is the basic premise of the Coffin of Andrew and Leyley, but there are a lot of alternative endings and optional endings. However, as said before, with one of the endings, it caused a significant controversy and even led to the creator having to withdraw themselves from the internet.
Jesus.
Holy shit! Did you just c*** your sister? What?
So as said before, the game had been listed as one of the most controversial games of 2023, even though on the Steam page it still sat an overwhelmingly positive reviews. But the reason it had such an infamous reputation was because of one of the scenes. And in said scene you kind of had to go out of your way to get this scene, and it even gives you an option if you want to see it or not. But it happens because Andrew and Leyley became buddy-buddy with the demon, and sometimes being friends with a literal demon isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Just grab it.
Maybe it'll show you scenes like being at the front lines of Saigon in 1975, or you clapping your own sister's cheeks. Which did happen, and within said scene it shows the aftermath of the coitus, but it never really happened in the game. It was just a vision the demon was using to mess with them, but this relationship is somewhat hinted throughout the game, but it's never shoved down your throat like this scene. But this is one of the reasons it became so popular so quickly as Chapter 2 released, because people on the internet lost it over this one scene. Some people assumed the creator involved this to romanticize the topic and advertise it, so they began praying for the downfall of the creator and labeling anyone that supported this game a degenerate, even to the point where some people that streamed the game faced harassment from these people. And as my saying goes, it got significantly worse. It even led to the creator of the show being doxxed and having their entire internet history put on blast on the internet, which led them to make an announcement that they were stepping away from the internet, removing all their social media, and outsourcing the production of the game to another company, but they still work on the art and the story, and are still vital to the game's development. And this is why many people that don't actually play the game or know about it label it the incest game, even though it was not a key plot point. But people had already condemned the creator and the fans of the game, but many made the point they overlooked the general theme of the game. Even on the Steam page, it lists it as a horror. Associating with the horror genre is to try and make people uncomfortable or scared. This may mean including taboo topics such as this to attempt to achieve that goal. But the game also includes other topics such as the paranormal and cannibalism, even satanic rituals, but nobody was talking about those topics, just this one. On top of the fact the game generally tries to tell you these people are terrible. They very rarely paint them in a good light. Hell, their parents tried to sell them away, and there's even one alternative ending where they kill them. The game tries to tell you these two are psychopaths and are gonna do some psychotic things. You are not meant to love them, you are not meant to endorse what they are doing, because they are crazy. But once again, like the Dead Space scene where you get your eye poked out, it is not integral to the story, it is just there to make you uncomfortable. And many of the fans agreed with this rhetoric. Many of them didn't understand the hate the creator and the game in general were getting, because 1, it is not integral to the plot, it is completely optional. 2, the story is about 2 deranged psychotic people. And 3, the game is under the horror genre, so it will try to make you uncomfortable with these said topics. Now with all that said, you did get parts of the community that did like these themes being suggested, whilst the majority of the fanbase are just thirsting over Leyley and her mother. To a disturbing degree, the Rule 34 servers are probably getting assists daily on the amount of dried up unborn children. held within the fabric of socks, as some people have been brute forcing the server with the amount of art produced about this game that is NSFW. But there is actually less than 1% of the community that sympathise and agree with the topics that were suggested within the game that were meant to make you uncomfortable, and they themselves romanticise it. Those are the actual degenerates of the community, and deserve their internet access to be revoked. And there are some more infamous individuals of the community like Fairball, who has been doxing people within the community and copyright striking videos to get them taken down even though it did not include any of their content, which is blatant abuse of the copyright system we all know and love on YouTube, and removing videos that did not include any of their content and was just videos on the coffin of Andy and Leyley. But due to the fact he was mainly targeting small channels and YouTube is YouTube, nothing will be done about it almost. But there is a video by the Silence Do Good going over the entire situation, which I would recommend checking out. But after all the harassment and doxing, the creator is still not back on the internet. But they have grown some massive steel balls and are making fun of the people that doxed them and got very mad over that one scene, even doubling down and saying they're not going to give up on the coffin of Andrew and Leyley, and making slight jabs at this group of people in the patch notes, which takes some serious balls. So in conclusion, despite the reputation of the game being the incest game, in quotations once again, there's only slight hints and only one serious scene where it involves it, and people promptly lost their shit over it, doxed and harassed the creators and fans, even though personally I think it's a horror game that is meant to make you uncomfortable by using said topics and themes, and beforehand even tells you the characters involved in it are terrible people. So whilst the game was not directly romanticising it, and there is probably a small percentage of the community actually doing it, alongside the people drawing pictures of Leyley's feet, who are the actual degenerates here, but this was a more accurate and updated video than my previous one. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, and bye bye.